Okay, let's see. I am working on getting this set up, but it is taking me a little while, so I'm a few minutes behind schedule because of some changes that were made. So apparently, instead of changing all the titles at once, I have to go in and change the titles one at a time. So please excuse my tardiness. I did not know that that would be different. On today. Good morning. Let's see, did anybody join us today? It's okay if you didn't, you can watch it later. But I do love having folks live. So if you would like to share, here we go. If you would like to share this out, go ahead and do that. We're gonna jump in. It is 10 after 9. So I want to make sure that I get started. It's 9 a.m. on Saturday morning, which I know is early for some people. It's 9 a.m. on the East Coast, which is 8 a.m. Midwest, right? 7 and then 6 in California and over there on the West Coast. So I know it's a little early, but I also know that doing this during the week has been a challenge. And folks are like, I'm homeschooling or I'm doing this, that, and the other, and I need to do something during the weekend. So I'm hoping that this will stream to you, somehow get to you, and you will be able to do this. So I left my phone upstairs. So I'm going to mute you and call for my phone. Gotta love those devices that will tell people to do stuff for you through your house. So anyway, good morning, everybody. It's Saturday morning, and we are doing what I'm calling a homeschool 101. Basically, I'm seeing a lot of questions about homeschooling, a lot of people pulling their kids out of school. A lot of folks are kind of like, what do I do now? So today I'm going to talk about just the basics, the first step. Listen, people are selling whole courses about homeschooling. There is so much to learn, so much to do, as you can imagine, to try and make sure that the moms and parents feel confident in the decisions that they make, as well as the kids are getting solid education. So this is just a touch. This is just the beginning. And I just want you guys to understand a little bit about homeschooling and what you need to do, where you can go to find answers, how you can move forward, and basically some simple things that can make this work for you. Some simple, I don't know, um, some basic information, right? So here's my heart. Here comes my kid with my phone. Um, my heart is very much to help you not be as lost as I was. Thank you, baby. My heart is very much to help you not be as lost as I was when I started homeschooling. It was hard and it was difficult to get into homeschool groups. Not it wasn't difficult to get into the groups, but it was difficult to find my people, right? It was difficult to at the beginning get connected. And sometimes that can be discouraging. And we need to remember that all relationships take time. So if you're having trouble finding your people, that's okay. It's not their fault. They're not being cliquish unless they are, right? There is that out there, but not everybody's being cliquish. Not everybody's being standoffish. Some people are just busy. They're just doing their thing. And it takes us time to build the community and the relationships that we need. And it doesn't matter what relationships you're talking about. That is true everywhere. That's true with your friendships. That's true with your romantic relationships. It's true with church. It's true with anything. It's true that it takes time to build that community. So I just want us, my goal is to help set some realistic expectations, to give you some information that will help you get started on your homeschooling journey, and also to just keep you at peace, right? Knowing what's normal, knowing what's not normal, that kind of thing. So let me introduce myself. I'm getting on my phone to make sure that some folks are hopping on. Um, let's see. Nope, she is not on there, so she must be over here. Y'all bear with me as I figure this out. All right. So, hey, so here's the thing. Let me just get started. I'm gonna just hop on and get started. Hopefully a few people will hop on. If not, you can watch this on the replay, but I have my notes here and kind of what I want to talk about. Let me introduce myself first. So if you're watching this and you don't know me personally, perhaps this will, I don't know, help you know help you feel better about listening to me. I don't know. I'm very chill. I wish I were more professional, but I'm not. I'm really just a let's get going kind of person. So my name's Nicole Thorne. I've been homeschooling now for 12 years. I have an 18-year-old who just graduated, and I'll tell you a bit more about why I say it that way, graduated with quotation marks. I have an 18-year-old who's graduated, an 11-year-old who's in sixth grade. And listen, I'm using these terms because this is what most people understand in our culture. But let me just be clear, these grades, they are more for your benefit than for mine or my kids. So I have an 11-year-old who's in sixth grade. I have a 9-year-old, almost 10-year-old who is in fourth grade. And I have a second grader who is 7 years old. They are all excellent readers, writers. They are articulate. They are good thinkers. They ask great questions. Those are some of the goals of my homeschool. They're also good in math. My oldest would say she's not, but she is. She just hates it so much. So then the question becomes, can you be good at something that you really, really hate and refuse to ever do? Maybe not, but she could be good at it. She's fine. All right. So let me just jump on in and talk a little bit about why I started homeschooling. And then maybe that is where we can jump into why you are homeschooling. So I started homeschooling when my oldest daughter was in second grade. I had a very young baby. I don't even think she was weeks old when I decided, maybe even months, but definitely not more than months. She was not a year old. And I decided that I wanted to be the one to disciple my daughter. I wanted to make sure that she was able to read, write, and do arithmetic. It was really a prideful reason. I wanted to do it. I wanted to build relationship with my kid. I wanted to make sure that my family was tight relationally. And I just really wanted mm, I don't know what it was. I wanted the clout, so to speak, of being able to say I homeschool. My homeschool why was really not very altruistic in the beginning. It was very, I think, prideful. And in the end, it turns out that I was homeschooling. God had me homeschooling for me more than for my daughter. There was a lot that needed to happen in my heart, a lot that needed to happen in my life, in my spiritual walk, in my trusting him, even revealing some of the trauma and the frustrations and the hurts that I have. They came in many ways through my homeschool journey. So also decided the when I decided, so why I wanted to homeschool was kind of selfish. It was like, I just want to be able to be the one to say that I did it. I like the idea of homeschooling, and I'm not sure that I don't know. I'm not sure that I want anybody else to take credit for what my babies are learning. So that was my original why. But I wasn't able to homeschool right at the beginning. It was a lot of self-doubt of my child. I had an only child. I didn't want her to be isolated. I didn't want her to be lonely. I didn't really know what I was doing. And so I put her in school. And then eventually my why shifted to I wanted her to have more confidence than what she was being given at the schools. So we had a couple of incidents in our school, and I loved our school. It was a great Christian school in Chicago. I loved it. I loved the people there. But at one point, decided that she was no longer good at math. A young lady who was great at math, she had no problems with math, and suddenly she was dumb. She was coming home saying she was dumb. She was coming home saying, I can't do math. And it turns out that she had been placed in a group in her class. They had been separated into groups. And rather than being put into mixed ability groups, which is really what research says is probably the best, or at least it had at that time. Research changes all the time. They were put into groups that were very much like, these are the smart people, these are the medium people, these are the dumb people, very much like that. These are the people who scored poorly, these are the people who scored well, and they were put in those kinds of groups. So since my daughter was put in a group that basically told her she was poor at math, she took that on as her identity. And let me tell you, it has persisted all her life. She still believes that she is no good at math, when really it's more a discipline issue than it is a brain issue. But I pulled her out at that point because, one, I wanted to save money because she was going to a private school, and two, I wanted to encourage her and give her the opportunity to really thrive. But what I didn't know was that that first year was going to be really, really hard. It was hard to get her to believe that I was a capable teacher, because she was so used to being able to say, "Hey, Miss So-and-so said such and such. Miss So-and-so said such and such." And so she would come home and basically think Miss So-and-so was smarter than me. So when I got her home and I'm trying to teach her stuff, she was just it was a very tough first year. We butted heads. She didn't want to do the work. She didn't want to sit down. And the problem that I found was that I was trying to replicate what was happening in the schools in my home. I was trying to sit her down, have a conversation or teach a lesson, which sometimes you have to do. But I was trying to basically have a classroom setting and bring what was happening in the schools into my home. And it was a disaster. When I tell you it was a disaster, I really was like, I don't know if I should do this. I'm gonna ruin my child's life. And on some level, deep down inside my heart, I'm like, oh, I think I might have ruined her life. Like I might have. Um, in some ways, because I really wrestled through what I thought our homeschool would be like. I thought it was going to be so pleasant. We're going to play games. We're going to learn. We're going to sit down and learn, and this, that, and the other. And I was wrestling through, like, what do I teach? What curriculum do I use? How is this supposed to work? Why did this book take so long to come in the mail? Then I was doing things like trying to find, read and go curricula where you just pick it up and you read it to your kid, and that's how that goes. Doesn't exist. You have to prepare. You have to, by the way, you just have to. So that first year was really, really hard, and I definitely considered putting her back in school. But then again, my pride kicked in, and I was like, I cannot put her back in school because I failed. If I put her back in school, it's because she's gonna go back in there excellent, right? And so it was a little bit of a pride thing that I was like, nope, let's try this again. We're gonna do another year. And then that just kept going. Like, my pride kept getting chiseled away by this doggone homeschool. Like, I have no pride left. I'm like, Lord, this is all you. I don't know how to do this. And here we are 12 years later, graduating her out of the 12th grade challenge 4 class with classical conversations. And let me explain to you a little bit why I'm hesitant to say she's graduated. Because, okay, so we moved from Chicago to Georgia, and in Georgia, they have a free dual enrollment. Now, this is probably true in many, many places, right? But in Georgia, they have free dual enrollment. Some places have dual enrollment with a cost. Some places don't have dual enrollment. I don't know everywhere. I know that Illinois, they have dual enrollment. And I know that here in Georgia, it's free. So any state-funded college, and actually any college on the list. So there's this list that you can get at Georgia Department of Education. Some of them are private. Some of them are public. And you can take any approved class for free as a high school student, and it counts for high school credit and college credit. So because Maya technically did not graduate from high school because I didn't print her diploma, I did not graduate her from high school because I required more in my math program than she was willing to do last year. So I kept her in high school for an additional year. The cool thing about it is that I'm able to do that and have her do the dual enrollment courses at the same time. So now she basically is getting her freshman year of college for free, and she's doing what the homeschool community calls a super senior year. So it's a 5th year of high school, but she's doing all college courses. So all of her classes are now on a college campus. I am no longer her primary teacher. But she is still in high school. So she technically is still in high school, though she graduated out of my high school program. She is technically still in high school and doing dual enrollment for free to graduate out with additional credits for high school, as well as her freshman year courses pretty much completed, which is really cool. So she's in her super senior year. We're going to celebrate her graduating like officially at the end of this year. We did a nice celebration last year. So, she did graduate out of her 4-year high school program. And I love that we can just kind of do whatever we want. We can just be like, yep, nope, she's not graduated yet. We're doing dual enrollment. That's how that's going. So, all right. So let me jump in. I don't really want to be on here too long unless you guys hop on and have some questions. So hopefully somebody will come on to live Q&A. I really am bad at marketing these things. So if nobody pops on, it's really okay. Because I really did not do a good job telling people about it. I just posted it in a few Facebook groups, hoping that folks would jump on, but got to do better than that, right? All right, so let's talk about there are two things I want to talk about this morning when it comes to homeschooling. Okay, so the first one is probably going to make you go, okay, let's get to the point. But I feel like you need to pause. We need to pause and we need to kind of backtrack a little bit about homeschooling before I tell you what to do. We need to talk about why. Why are we homeschooling? Now, some of you I know are home. You're like, okay, I'm done. I'm done with public education. I'm done with the bullying. I'm done with the agenda. I'm done with the process. I'm done with the fake, false history lessons. And I'm just done. I'm ready to pull my kid out. I'm done with the lack of services. I'm done with the lack of care. I'm done with all of that. You're just like, you know what? I can do this. I can do a better job. Some of you are doing it because you feel compelled. You feel like God has called you to do it. Some of you are doing it because you just, like me, you just want to be the one to disciple your family. So it's important, though. It's important that you identify your why. And I want to give you two aspects of your why, right? Because this is going to help you choose your curriculum. It's going to help you choose the atmosphere of your homeschool. It's going to help you choose a lot of things, and it's going to inform how you run your homeschool. Okay. So there is coming. Oh, you know what? I do have a little bit of a presentation. Let's see if I share my screen, will it show up the way that I see it? Okay. So this is, I don't know why it does that. Okay. So this is Homeschool 101 training, basics of homeschooling. And then hopefully at the end, we'll do a live Q&A if that is your, if you are on and want to do that. So it looks like I have a couple of people watching. So just know that I'm trying to watch the chats as well. If you are not live with me on Zoom, so you can ask questions over there as well. And I will do my best to answer them. All right. Okay, so the first thing we're going to talk about is your why, right? Why do you homeschool? Okay, so the short answer to can you do this? I wrote this in there. Yes, you can. I got these little generic slides because I just think they're cute. So the first thing is why? Why are you homeschooling? And I want to give you two aspects to look at this from. Okay, I want you to look at this from what you are coming from and what you are coming from and what you are going toward, what you are reaching for, right? So sometimes we get caught up in what we are running from, so to speak. Like some of us are like I said, we're done with homeschooling. I mean, done with the school system, right? And that is actually a very valid reason to be homeschooling. But may I suggest that it may not be sufficient to keep you going, because we don't just want to be running from something. We want to be running towards something. So as you think through your why, not only what are you coming from, what have you decided to cut off from your life? So you may decide, I'm homeschooling because I want my child to be in an environment that is encouraging, no bullying, in an environment that is accepting, in an environment that is provoking, maybe, so to provoke them to good work, so to speak, to provoke them to work hard. I call it positive peer pressure. You've wanted to change the environment that your child is homeschooling, in which your child is homeschooling, right? So if your why is I want to get my child out of this school system, I'm now going to homeschool. Now you have to decide what you want them to go for, right? Toward. So let me help you acknowledge that, yes, it's okay to have decided to run from something or to delete something from your life, and therefore you need to homeschool. But it's important that you homeschool towards something. So what do you want? What is your own why, right? Let's be careful not to compare. Let's be careful not to do things because someone else is doing them. Let's establish your own why right now, right? And I want to encourage you to write it down, articulate it. Why are you homeschooling? How do you figure out why you're homeschooling? What are some things you can do to even determine the why of your homeschool? That's what I want to talk about today. Okay. So first of all, the why is a positive thing. It's not, I'm getting away from those people, I'm taking my kids out. Your why is a positive thing. So I want my child to be in an encouraging school environment, right? What are some other ways that you might determine why you're homeschooling? Things that determine your why. Let me just say, it may not come while you're sitting here thinking about it. Okay. Now that it's on your mind that you need a why, you're going to have that in your mind as you go through your day. And there are going to be memes, scriptures, ideas, thoughts, sermons, all kinds of things that come across your path that may provoke in you, ooh, I like that idea as a part of my why. Ooh, I like that idea as a part of my why. And you can collect various statements that make up your why. It doesn't have to be one sentence. It doesn't have to be one thing. It can be a scripture. It can be, maybe you hear a quote, something like, I want my, or something like I was listening to a quote this morning. I'm trying to remember it. When you infuse your life with joy, joyful things come out of it. It was kind of like that. When you infuse your life with joyful things, you will find joy out of those things. So then basically maybe one of your whys for your homeschool is that you want your child and your family to be more joyful. You want to control a little bit more the atmosphere that they're in so that they can experience joy or peace, right? Maybe it is that you want to develop strong readers, people who love science and love math and maybe there are certain things that you have an affinity for that you really want to pass on to your children. That is a perfectly good why. Maybe you have a scripture. I'll share the scripture that I have. I have a scripture from Colossians chapter 2 that I use as my why, one of my kind of why statements, right? And so I'm developing them as I go. I'm learning that they change, right? Your why will change. And I'll talk about that in a minute, but your why will change. Here is one of the first things that I did was I found this scripture. I came across this scripture and I always go back to it whenever I talk about my why. It's Colossians chapter 2, verses 2 and 3. And it says, for I want your heart. For I want you to know. Oh no, that's wrong. I'm sorry. So it says, this is my goal, that their hearts may be encouraged, being knit together in love, and attaining to all riches of the full assurance of understanding, to the knowledge of the mystery of God, both of the Father and of Christ, in whom are hidden all the treasures of wisdom and knowledge. Okay, I'm going to read it again because I screwed it up. Okay, that their hearts may be encouraged, being knit together in love, and attaining to all riches of the full assurance of understanding, to the knowledge of the mystery of God, both of the Father and of Christ, in whom are hidden all the treasures of wisdom and knowledge. So as a Christian, I want my children to know the Lord, but I also want them to be knit together in love. I also want them to have understanding. I want them to be able to think, not just to be told what to think, but actually know how to think. I want them to understand that the best understanding and the best, the riches of understanding are really hidden in the mystery of Christ. And I want them to know that Christ, it is the treasure. It's hidden in him is all the treasures of wisdom and knowledge. That's my goal. That's my why. Why do I homeschool? Because I want my children. And that could be also a goal, right? We sometimes I talk about the difference between a why and a goal, and that's okay. We can talk about that more another time. But that's one of the statements that I use to direct is am I on track? Right. And so this is why you use your why. You use your why to determine, are you on track? If you're coming across some person who's doing this really fun thing and you begin to compare yourself, comparison can be really hard. And you begin to compare yourself and say, oh, I should be doing that. I should be doing that. Oh my gosh, I should be doing that. You know what? Go back to your why and say, does this fit with my why? Am I on track with my why? Does this fit into why I'm homeschooling? And if it does, now you can consider it. If it doesn't, you have two options. One, you adjust your why, which is very okay. Or two, you ditch it. Nope, doesn't fit with the direction that I'm trying to go in. And therefore, that's a no, right? So it's really important that you have a why because it helps to determine, look at me doing all this. I'm trying to get my shirt right in my face. Anyway, distracted. See, distracted. It's really important to determine your why because your why will help to determine the direction of your homeschool. And you can decide kind of what it is you want to do and how you want to do it and which direction you're going to go because of your why. So let me just talk a little bit about the changes that you might make in your why, okay? Sometimes we get started for one reason and then we continue for another reason. Like I told you a little bit earlier, I think my reasons for homeschooling in the beginning were kind of selfish. They were a little prideful. They were very self-centered. It wasn't really about my kids. It was really more about me, if I'm honest. I just wanted to be the one to say that I was homeschooling. I thought it was a good thing. I thought it would give me clout. I thought it would make me a better mom. I thought like all the things. And it was a really selfish reason. Over time, that has definitely changed. I have been truly humbled. I have wanted to put my children in school multiple times because it is hard. And now my why is truly to give my children and my family a wonderful education experience. And when I say my family, I do mean me and my husband and I. No, me. I do mean me. I do mean my husband and me. Because homeschooling really does redeem the education of the parent as well as the child, as well as educate the child. I've learned so much. I've revisited things that I had forgotten. I've learned lots and lots and lots of things that I never knew before when I was a kid. And I have just really it's really become clear to me that most of the learning in my life and in our lives happens after we're 18 or 22, right? And so this pressure to get all of this information into them in the first 18 years of their life is a false pressure. It is just stupid, right? It's just stupid. And we should know that because we're the adults and we recognize that most of the learning that we've done is really post-secondary school. What we are designing our homeschool and our elementary or high schools to do should be to teach people how to learn, not to teach them what, but to teach them how, to develop in them a love of learning so that they can continue to learn all the days of their lives. A lot of us really do stop learning when we think, check, I have taken care of my education and all I'm going to do is focus on this one job and do this one thing and do this one factory position or whatever. And we have basically lost the love of learning. So my job, one of my whys has become to curate a love of learning in my children. One of my whys has become to develop an ability to reason. That's why we do logic in our homeschool, an ability to reason so that they know how to think, not just what to think, not just pulling. And I find myself being told what to think all the time. I find myself, especially with current events, whose side are you on? Right now, there's this whole debate about the Ukraine versus Russia. Well, we don't really debate that, but Israel versus Palestine, we do. And so really, I'm like, okay, so these people say that I should be on this side and I'm doing that. And then I'll hear something else and be like, oh, these people say that I should be on that side. And it is like, now I'm realizing I need to think for myself. I need to develop, to do what I have developed in my children, right? So that's really important. I'm going to pause for a second because my children are in. They decided they didn't want to ask me after all. Okay, so as you learn your children's learning styles, as you learn your own learning and teaching styles, as you get kind of out there and learn more about educational philosophies and things like that, your why is going to change. And that is perfectly okay. It's perfectly okay. In fact, it should change, especially if it's as self-centered as mine was. So I just want to encourage you to sit down and write down your why. Why are you homeschooling? Why do you want to homeschool? Why do you want to do this? Because that why is going to help you on those days when you feel like giving up. And trust me, there will be days, multiple days when you feel like giving up. Just like anything that's worth doing, it can be hard. You can get to a place where you're like, I don't like this part. This is really, I got to trudge through this part, and that's okay. Just remember, why are you doing this? I'm doing this for my children. I'm doing this to make sure that they have godly influences over them, that they are not lied to. They are not being inundated with lies and deceit from the enemy, but that they are being raised with a Christian worldview or whatever worldview that you want your child to be raised in. I'm doing it so that they can be encouraged. I'm doing it so they can feel safe. I'm doing it so they can feel so they can have freedom to follow their delights and their desires and their interests. I'm doing it because I want them to have discipline. I want to teach them discipline in learning. There are all kinds of ways that things that you might determine are in your why. And you know what? You don't have to have the same why every day or every month. I encourage you, even through seasons, to change your why. Like in the fall, you might have a very academic, like we're getting started, we need to focus. In the spring, you might be like, we need to really explore. We got to get out of the house. So maybe your why that season is that you want to explore more, that you want to learn outside of academics, right? Maybe that's your semester. Maybe in the summer, you still do school, but your summer school is more about delight. It's more about exploration. It's more about enjoying learning non-academic subjects, right? Maybe some skill-based subjects, right? Maybe you are not really doing science and math and English, but you're doing shop, right? You're learning to cut wood, you're learning to swim, right? Anything, any skill-based learning can happen during the summer. So we do some of that as well. You can change your why, change your goal. You're not really changing your core why, but you can change your why, your goals in that seasonal thing, right? So I love that idea, and I just wanted to pass that on to you, right? So let's move on to what, because I know a lot of y'all are like, Nicole, I need to know what to do. Okay. First of all, you need to know where to go to find what to do. So if you're here in Georgia, you want to go to gadoe.org. That's Georgia Department of Education. You can just Google Georgia Department of Education. And I don't know what I did. Okay, let's talk about what to teach in your homeschool. And even though this could really be an entire course on its own, I'm going to try to jump into this in the next 10 minutes. And we're going to just dive into what you are supposed to do. Okay, Nicole, I pulled my child out of school. Now what do I do? Okay, so there are a few requirements here in Georgia that you need to know about. There are 3. You can, like I said, you need to know where to go. You can go to Georgia Department of Education. That's a great resource to find out everything you need to know. You can also go to HSLDA, That is the Homeschool Legal Defense Association. A lot of people do not like them. If you are not Christian, or if you're like, oh, they're too right wing, you can find another one. But the HSLDA does not discriminate when it comes to helping homeschoolers. They have every state's requirements. So you can go to homeschoollegaldefenseassociation.org and you can log in for free, and you can click on your state and it will tell you what you are required to do in that state. Some states require you to send work in, they require you to send lesson plans in, they require you to send report cards, and basically you need to get accredited. You need to do the work as if you are an accredited school. Some states like Illinois don't require you to tell anybody anything. You don't have to do anything. You just withdraw your child, make sure they're not being reported as truant, and that is it. You are homeschooling your child. The homeschool freedoms in the state of Illinois are amazing if that's your thing. Now, some people are like, oh, I don't think that's good. Somebody should be overseeing that. I happen to disagree with that. I do not think that it is the goal. It is the responsibility of the state to educate my children. It is my responsibility. And if I choose to use state tools like public schools and things like that, that's still my choice. That is my opinion. Some people are like, there should be some oversight because there's got to be some people that are getting lost in the system. I agree. There are some people probably getting lost in the system. I think that's the price of freedom, but that's just my stance. Here in Georgia, you don't have to do much, but you do have to report to the state of Georgia that you are homeschooling. It's called a Declaration of Intent to Homeschool. You can get that at georgiadoe.org, the Department of Education. You fill it out. It's a one-page document. You basically add in the names and ages of the students that you will be homeschooling that year, sign off electronically, and hit send, and it sends it to the Department of Education. Also, once you do that, you do not have to report anything else to the state unless they come to you to ask you, which happens very, very, very rarely. Like, I think I've heard of 2 people who that's happened to, and I know hundreds of homeschoolers. And most people say that it's because of some other issue that DFACS may come and check on the kids or something like that. But for the most part, you do not have to report anything else to the state. However, should the state ever come to you, there are some things that the law requires that you should be doing. So number 1 is the Declaration of Intent. You have to fill out a Declaration of Intent every year by September 1st, okay? Number 2 is that you have to test your students with some standardized tests every 3 years starting in 3rd grade. You must do that every 3 years starting in 3rd grade. Now, I test my students every year. The reason I test my students every year is because I learned the hard way that taking tests is a skill that needs to be learned. So, for example, my oldest daughter, she freezes when it comes to tests. She bombs. She just does not test well. She had to take the driver's test 3 times because she just does not test well. I was very much like, oh, I don't believe in standardized testing. They don't really test, they don't really do a fair testing. And I still agree with that. If you go, for example, you may go to the standardized test for high school, ACT, SAT test, and there may be a question, an essay question. And the essay question often is something that is really irrelevant to homeschooling. For example, I think last year's question was something like, write an essay about the importance of Spirit Day in high school. Well, you might have to go up to the front and ask, what is Spirit Day if you are a homeschooler? So I do believe that the tests are not necessarily fair for everyone. However, the skill of taking tests is necessary for life. You may have to take the GRE, you may have to take a test to get into a job situation, you may have to take a test for a certification on a job. You definitely have to take a driver's license test. You have to take all types of tests through life. So while I do not give much credence or weight to the results of the test, I do test my children every year to develop the skill of testing. But that's beside the point. Georgia requires that you test every 3 years beginning in 3rd grade. So 3rd grade, 6th grade, 9th grade, 12th grade. You need to have standardized tests in your portfolio in case someone comes to ask. You're also supposed to, at the end of every year, write a synopsis or a progress report and keep it. You're supposed to write a progress report on various subjects that your child is supposed to have in their educational repertoire. So if you go to Georgia or Illinois, I'm pretty sure this is similar in Illinois. This is in Illinois, you didn't have to do that, but you should, right? We were always told that we should, just for records, and also in case you ever in case something happens where you have to put your child in an institutional academy or school, you want to have records to keep, right? But you also want to make sure that you know what courses are required in your homeschool. So for example, in Georgia, you have to do science, math, some kind of reading comprehension, what do they call it? Language arts. So science, math, language arts, a foreign study, social studies, a foreign language, and there's one more. So those are all listed out on the Georgia website, right? So now you know where to go to get that information. Once you have determined that you're going to homeschool and you know, okay, I need to teach these subjects and I need to do the DOI, I need to plan on testing at some point, but right now I just need to know what to teach. Now you're ready to sit down and say, okay, what am I going to teach my children? How do you determine what to teach? So first of all, there's a lot more to this than I can put in this video. You want to learn how your child learns. So my first suggestion to new homeschoolers is to de-school. What do I mean by de-school? It means don't do school, just learn. How do you just learn? Go to the park, go to museums, discuss something, have a dinner and have have lunch together and have some discussion questions. Google fun family discussion questions and ask questions of your kids. Find out what they like, play with toys. De-school. Just don't do a scheduled school-like schedule. De-school and watch your children and yourself. I don't know why I have so much hiccuping and stuff going on, and yourself. Determine how you learn best. Maybe read a book and determine if that's something that you really like. Do you learn well through reading? Would you rather listen to a podcast? Is there a balance between those two? How can you, when you go to the museum and you see your children running around, are they reading everything? Are they walking around really intrigued? Are they mostly looking at the visuals? Are they moving a lot? Are they kinesthetic? Are they visual? These are things that you're going to learn as you walk through homeschooling. You're going to want to learn their learning styles. So my first suggestion would be de-school. And while you're de-schooling, Google and study, not Google, you could research it, DuckDuckGo it, whatever. Research learning styles. Sit down and read about various learning styles. Those are my two first suggestions. Take 6 weeks. I promise you, 6 weeks off of school is not going to harm your child, especially if you are committed to homeschooling for the long run. 6 weeks off of school is not going to harm your child. The first 6 weeks of every school year is usually review anyway from last year, and your child is still learning. As long as you don't stick them in front of a TV, in front of a mindless television, your child is still learning. So for 6 weeks, just determine, hey, we're just going to have some fun. What do you want to do? What are some places that you'd like to visit? Let's go to some state parks. Let's go on a scavenger hunt at a state park. They have those little scavenger hunt pamphlets. Let's go decide, discover what people have. What do people have? Go to a local bookstore, go to a library, go to a museum, go to an art institute, go to the park. There are so many things that you can do, and just watch your child learn. Okay, watch your child learn. During that first 6 weeks, as you study your child and you're beginning to study learning styles, you also can check out some curriculum. Like a lot of homeschoolers write their own curriculum. If you don't feel confident doing that, which I did not, and I have a master's in education, you can go and look at some packaged homeschool curriculum. Okay, there's some free curriculum if that's your thing. I found it not to be sufficient for my family, but I know a lot of people who are very happy with some of the free curriculum that you can find. So you can go to Easy Peasy Homeschool. That's a full online curriculum, pre-K through 12th grade, that a woman has developed, and it uses all free resources or mostly free resources. And that's easypeasyhomeschool.com. You can search Easy Peasy Homeschool and it'll take you to the website. And it has a different website name now, like the URL is a little different, but it's okay if you use Easy Peasy Homeschool in your search engine. It will take you to that website. There's also The Good and the Beautiful has some free curriculum that you can look at, I believe. And I think that's the only other one. There's another one, but I can't think of the other one. I didn't write it down. But for other people, if free is not necessarily what you're looking for, or if you go to those free resources and you don't think they're sufficient, there are so many options. I use classical conversations as my jumping point. There's a lot in that curriculum. It also comes with a community, which is really what I needed. I needed community. So can I just pause and say, do not try to homeschool by yourself. Do not. There is no such thing as education in a vacuum. Nobody is somewhere educating themselves by themselves. Even Nathaniel Bowditch, if you know who he is, still had community people informing him and helping him and getting what he needed to know. So do not try to homeschool by yourself. Find yourself a co-op, a community, a group of people, meet at a park, whatever. Find your people. Okay. And it may, like I said at the beginning, it may take some time. Sometimes these people, I know I've fallen prey to this, the tendency to just be in my own routine, and I find myself looking cliquish. Give them grace. They don't mean it. Bogart your way in if you need to, but give yourself time to develop those relationships and make sure you are pursuing community. One of the main reasons that I do classical conversations is the community. I also like the classical model of education, that basically is teaching to the developmental level of your child and pouring in things based on their developmental stage. So the younger kids, they are sponges. They do really well with memorizing things. If you notice, little people, the ABCs and the 1, 2, 3s and all that stuff, they grasp those songs, they do them. So while they're at that stage, we're putting all kinds of information in there. There's a lot of memory work. There's a lot of motion. There's a lot of hands-on. That it would be the very first stages, right? And so there's a lot of memory work, and a lot of people are like, why are you just memorizing these statements? They're very relevant statements. In my mind, I would rather my child be memorizing historical statements that they don't understand than meaningless songs and rhythms and rhymes that they don't understand, although they do both. But the classical model is basically about what we call the trivium, the stages, the kind of 3 stages that are happening both in a row, and also within those areas, we go from grammar to dialectic to rhetorical. I can tell you more about that at another time, but that is the classical model. And there are multiple curricula that claim the classical model. You have Memorial Press, you have Veritas, you have Classical Conversations. There's lots of classical model educational philosophy based programs out there, and those are the top 4 that I know of: Memorial Press, Veritas, Classical Conversations, and it was only 3. Memorial Press, and Ambleside Online. Ambleside Online is another free one. You're gonna have to do a lot of work, but it is free, and I love it. I pull things from there a lot. It is a great place for you to go to grab some Charlotte Mason / classical tools, things that you can use classically. All right, so classical is one of the methodologies of homeschooling philosophies, educational philosophies, or educational methodologies. You also have Charlotte Mason. Charlotte Mason was a woman who lived in the, 18th century. And, but her philosophy of education is what has endured. And she does a lot of it's a little bit kind of like Montessori, I think. Montessori is different, but it's very much like get out in nature, learn what is around you, and developing a love of learning and making sure that you are not just sitting somewhere trying to fill your brain with useless facts. So you could go and go and research Charlotte Mason. You can search Charlotte Mason. There will be a lot of things that come up about her. I highly recommend you read behind her. Ambleside Online is a place where you can go and find curriculum, read through the curriculum. Also, you can just go to, I think it's, let's see, World Book Encyclopedia is a good one because you can go there and it'll tell you like, okay, in 4th grade, your child should know this, 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 and this, and this by the end of the year. It's kind of an overview, kind of scope and sequence kind of thing. You can also go to your local school. I don't, this is not my preference, but if you really just feel lost and you want to get started, go to your local schools, your local school district's website and get their scope and sequence. If they don't have one, you can top by a local school and say, hey, do you guys have a scope and sequence document for grades and what the goals are per grade, the educational benchmarks per grade. So that's another thing you can do. Also, Sunlight is another curriculum. It's very literature based. If you are really like, I want my kids to read and get most of their education through living books. Living books just means it's not a textbook, it's a regular novel or something, and we gain our information from there. Sunlight is a really great one. You have Abeka, you have Seton. Seton is a Catholic one. You have classical. I have Ambleside, classical, World Book, and then some other, Memorial Press. You also have K-12, but that's not a homeschool. That's actually a virtual school, which is very different, even though people use it to homeschool. It is basically the school system online. You do have another teacher. So if you want to be the teacher, K-12 is not for you. But if you want your child to have another teacher and you're kind of the parent help, then you're basically hybrid schooling. You're not really homeschooling. But if that's what works for your family, do whatever works. Now, can I say that? I cannot say that sternly enough. Do whatever works for your family. Do whatever works. Follow the leading of the peace that you have in Christ, right? In God. Just go and do what you know you should be doing. Do the best that you can. Know that when you doubt yourself, you are not alone. We all doubt ourselves sometimes. We doubt ourselves when we put them in school. We doubt ourselves when we take them out of school. So get past that. I know I have to tell myself that a lot. And in the end, do what you know feels best for your family. And even when you make mistakes, because you will, and even when you didn't do something that you thought you should do, just know that the gaps will be filled in. All of us have gaps, whether we go to an institutional school or whether we do homeschool or anything, or even if we de-school or unschool, there's unschooling out there. We all have gaps, and they will be filled between now and the time that we leave this earth. So I have to tell myself to just get past that and move forward and do the best that I can. So those are some ideas around where you can find curriculum. Just know that this curriculum is not your master, okay? It is a servant. Can I just say that? Curriculum is not your master. It is a servant. If you have a curriculum and it's not working well for you, you have 2 options. 3, really. You have 3 options. You can trudge through that thing and be like, I'm going to do this and make your homeschool miserable. You can adjust it and be like, I like this part of it, but this part is not working for us. And it's okay for me to do this. Sometimes that takes a little bit more confidence than I have, because I'm like, well, what if what I'm getting rid of is really something that they need? And so then I'm like, man, I don't have the confidence to adjust this curriculum. So 3, chuck it. Go find another curriculum. There are so many out there. It's okay to chuck curriculum in the middle of the week, in the middle of the semester, in the middle of the year, in the middle of the summer. It is okay to change curriculum. And let me just tell you something. We sometimes think that we have to do what schools have done because it's quote unquote proven, right? And that's fine. There's some of that I think is legit. But did you know that schools change curriculum all the time? They are being marketed to just like we are. So often you will find that a school has changed curriculum every year or every 2 years in a particular subject, or even in all subjects. They'll just take on a whole different marketed curriculum, right? And it's okay. It's okay. So I want you to remember that the curriculum is a servant. It's a jumping off point. It's an outline, so to speak. And you may not feel confident enough to change it or add to it or detract from it, and that's okay. Do what you want to do with that curriculum. And if you find that curriculum doesn't work for you, find another curriculum that does. And know that your child is not missing out if they have to take a week off while you find a different curriculum. Switching curricula is not going to harm your child's education. It's not. Now, if you do it every week and every other week for 5 years, we're talking about, let's be reasonable. But if you are genuinely trying with a curriculum and you find that it is not working for your child, it is not working for you, because you count in your homeschool, right? You're learning as well as they are. You're learning how you teach. And if you're frustrated, then you're going to pass that frustration on to your child. If that curriculum is not working for you, please go and find another curriculum. Okay? It's okay. It's okay. Now, your curriculum is also going to be impacted by the requirements of whatever state you live in. For example, if you live in a state that requires health, you need to make sure that you do something that's health related, but know that you have flexibility, right? You don't necessarily have to go and get a health textbook and teach through this textbook. That's not what you need to do. What you need to do is health, and health can cover a bunch of subjects. So you go look up, if I need to do, a half a credit of health, that's, let's say in my state, that would be 90 hours. So you need the equivalent of 90 hours of work, right? And that looks like what you want it to look like. So you may decide, I want her to take a CPR course. I want her to take, I want us to do like fire safety. We're going to talk through fire safety, watch a couple of videos about that. I want them to talk about nutrition. I want them to talk about their bodies and anatomy. I want them to talk about how different things, the environment impacts our health. You get to choose how the different things that you want to study that make up that 90 hours worth of health. Okay, it has to be health related, and it's just, you get to pick, you get to write the curriculum. You can use a textbook, you cannot. You can talk to them while you're cooking about why you have a vegetable and protein and starch and this and that and what these things do in your body. That counts as health if you choose for that to count as health. Another thing you want to note is it's not 90 hours of you teaching and them listening. It is 90 hours worth of work. So here's what you need to know. There is some educational expert out there who sat and wrote a curriculum and they decided this is 1 hour's worth of work. Guess what? My child might get through that 1 hour's worth of work in 15 minutes. It still counts as an hour's worth of work. On the flip side, if that hour's worth of work takes my child 2 hours to do, that's 2 hours worth of work. It's never going to be less than 1 hour's worth of work because some experts said that it's 1 hour's worth of work, but it could be 2 hours worth of work or 3 hours worth of work. So guess what that means for my homeschool? That means I get to determine what is 1 hour's worth of work. I get to. And you might be like, Nicole, but what if you're wrong? What if what you think is an hour's worth of work is really 2 hours worth of work? Or what if what you think is an hour's worth of work is really only 30 minutes worth of work? Well, guess what? What if that expert is wrong? There is nothing about him except for him looking and taking an average of how long people took to get this done, right? Maybe over time he did some research and he was like, oh, it takes these people 2 hours and it takes these people 30 minutes. So I'm going to call that an hour's worth of work. It's just, it's really nothing written in stone, and no one is coming for you to say, hey, you only did 35 minutes worth. Nobody's coming for you to do that. So relax. I'm really talking to myself, y'all. Relax. Do what in your best estimate, good faith effort is an hour's worth of work, and that's an hour's worth of work. And if it happens to take your child 15 minutes, so be it. And if it happens to take your child 2 hours, so be it. Determine what you believe is about an hour's worth of work, set the standard, and you get to set the standard in your homeschool. Oh my gosh, I'm talking to myself, you guys. We want so badly to have some expert tell us exactly what to do, but that's exactly the thing we're trying to get away from. Those experts have not served us well. So all of that to say, when you have requirements set aside by your state in order for you to graduate your child, right, by the state, you want a state approved diploma, right? Some of us don't even care about that. It's like, hey, this is my diploma. You take it and you do whatever you want to do with it when you get done. But Some people really want a state approved, like something that's like, hey, this is what we did. The minimum of our homeschool is what the state approved. That's not the maximum. We do way more than what a state approved, but we definitely do what the state has asked us to do. These subjects, this many hours and such and so forth. Once you determine that, you can do those things, fulfill those things however you want. You have so much freedom that sometimes it can be a little bit unnerving. But just know that the curriculum, the state standards, even the subjects of the courses, those are just servants. They are to get you started and to move you toward where you want to be on your homeschool, okay? And move your child along in their education. They are suggestions, even the requirements are just outlined and they are flexible, okay? All right, so I think I'm going to end this here. There is nobody on for live Q&A, so I'm going to ask a couple of questions that I would have asked and answer them, okay? All right, so Nicole, you're telling me that everything is kind of up to me, but I don't really like that. I don't feel comfortable just deciding because there's all these experts out here that are telling us what our kids could learn. Can you help me know exactly what to do next? Yes, I can help you know exactly what to do next. You're going to go to 5 of these curriculum. You can do 10, you can do 20. I don't know. I don't care. I'm going to give you 5. You're going to write them down. You're going to go to their websites and peruse their websites. And you're going to decide what looks good to you and what you can afford. Okay. Number 1, you're going to go to ambleside.com. Number 2, you're going to go to classicalconversations.com. Number 3, you're going to go to memoriapress.com. Number 4, you're going to go to sunlight.com. And number 5, you're going to go to abeka.com, ABEKA. Okay. Those are some of the most popular homeschool curriculum. You might even go to Heritage. There are some heritage.com. There are some that are more what many would call more diverse, maybe more racially diverse. Some that are more they're not classical. I tend toward the classical side. So most of what I'm going to offer is going to be, literature based or classical education. And you know what? I will give you a 6th one that you should go to first. You should go to World Book Encyclopedia and search for homeschool, or you could just search for homeschool education requirements or scope and sequence. Your research starts by jumping in, looking at the curriculum. That's the first thing that you're going to do. Well, that's the second thing you're going to do. The first thing is you're going to do is go fill out your declaration of intent at the Georgia Department of Education if you haven't done that. If that's a requirement in your state, if you're watching this from another state. If not, you don't have to fill anything out, then your next first thing is to start looking at curriculum. Just go and dream. Okay, just sit. And I would say, sit down with a calendar and determine when is your first day of school and make it 6 weeks away and tell your kids, we're going to start school on this day. But between now and then, mommy's going to be researching and you're going to be learning in various ways. So I want you to just think about what you want to learn. Do you want to learn to cook? Do you want to build some robotics? Do you want me to order some kind of a kit? Do you want me you can go to Mel Science and get science kits. You can go to Kiwi, KIWI, and get all kinds of engineering kits. I think Mark Rober has some NASA-based learning kits on there. $25. You can get them started, and they can do that every day for a week and just learn different things from there. You can ask them questions about it. They can watch some YouTube videos. And this first week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 5 weeks, 6 weeks, whatever you determine is deschooling. And you're going to start to develop a love of learning for them and for yourself by perusing these websites, looking into these different educational philosophies, and studying how your child learns. That's your next step, your first 6 weeks. All right. That's it. That's all I got today for you. I was going to hopefully answer a couple of other questions, but I am on here for way too long. It's been over an hour, and I want to make sure that it's been right about an hour, and I want to make sure that I give you guys the rest of your day. So if this was helpful to you, if you're watching this on the replay, I would love to hear from you. #replay. Just let me know if there's anything on here that spoke to you. Other than that, I will see you again at another time. Love you guys. Have a great day.